Halfway through a night dive, I dropped my expensive camera. I thought it was gone for good. The visibility was bad, the current was stronger than it should have been, and we had no idea where the camera was on that dive, and it could have potentially drifted off with the current. But the part that makes it even crazier was it was recording the entire time. So instead of ending the dive, we went back in to find it. So let me set the stage here. We were diving at a local dive site called Cove 2 in Seattle, and it was nighttime. The weather's been a little rocky, and I had just bought a brand new Insta360 camera to give it a try and see how I can take some of my filming to the next level. It's a little pricey camera, and I was still trying to figure out where to put it on my person and make sure that it doesn't get scratched, because the dome is very sensitive. A lot of divers with our group were out that night, and there was a lot of energy. It felt good. My initial thoughts were that I was gonna put it on around my waist, a little clip that I have on my harness, and let it just kind of be off to the side. And if I entangled it for whatever reason, I could always unclip it and get it out of the entanglement that way. But here's the thing though, I had way too small of a clip. It just wasn't a good clip. Not for cold water diving anyways, where you're wearing thick, bulky gloves and you can't feel as well. So a small clip was really quite a hassle to deal with. And so I quickly found, trying to take it on and off, reposition it, that this just wasn't gonna work. And I found this out on the dive. So okay, my solution, I'll just hold it, no problem. But it's a night dive. You're also having a light and potentially having to deal with other things, especially trying to deal with the dump valves. You really need one hand for it. So it's not a really two-handed thing. So I ended up putting my dive torch in one hand with my Insta. And you probably see that there's a problem here with how much I'm managing with one hand. Ultimately, this wasn't a very good setup. Sometimes you have to learn lessons the hard way. And maybe not the best idea, but I was still taking out my other camera, my manual camera, and taking some videos of certain things and testing out video lights. And so at some point, that Insta360 just popped right on my hand, and I didn't even realize for a little bit time later. We were already returning to the shore, and lo and behold, the Insta360 pole's entirely gone. Poof! You can imagine at this time how much stress I was feeling losing my camera. But I couldn't just communicate that I wanted to go back. We had to get back to shore because although I was on twin set and had plenty of gas, the others with me weren't. And we had to get back to shore at the end of our dive. So ultimately, feeling pretty stressed by the end of the dive, we did our safety stop, ended the dive, and I told my team the tragedy that just happened and how much stress I was undergoing. Fortunately, we all decided that we're gonna go ahead and switch cylinders. I was on twin set, so I didn't have to worry about it, but they were gonna switch cylinders and we were gonna go back down and find that sucker. But here's the thing though, you can see from the footage that the visibility was horrible. And surprisingly, for Cove 2, it had a decent amount of current. Probably the most I've ever experienced there. What a night to lose a camera. And all these things were going through my head. Like, what if that current was pushing that camera and every single second that passed, it could be floating away from the dive site? And I wasn't even sure what the Insta360 buoyancy would be like. Maybe it'd float to the surface. So when they were switching out, I was at the surface searching around with my dive torch, just looking all over the place to see if I could see it bobbing at the surface. All this made the loss feel so much worse. Ultimately, I couldn't tell if the camera was on the bottom. I didn't know if it was going to be on the top, and it very well may have drifted far away from the current. So by time my team got back after switching cylinders, I had been searching the surface the entire time. A little bit of stress still, but still calm and collect, and I was ready to go and see if I could find it on next dive. But the loss was starting to feel very real, and I had to really kind of go through the stages of denial at this time, and I kind of moved towards acceptance. I probably lost this thing, and I have to figure out how to break it to my wife. My maiden voyage with my Insta360 ended up as a total loss. But with everyone geared up, we were ready for round 2 and start a search and recovery pattern along the same route that we went. But here's the thing, we had to stay fairly close proximity because of the low viz, and trying to separate the parties would make things a lot harder. But we had a fair number of people in our party, and we were gonna give it our best shot. And so we started our second dive, but this time a lot more focus and attention, using the most piercing light I had on myself to really just scan to see if I could see that little bubble dome reflecting a little glimmer of light, shifting left, shifting right, scanning the horizon, making sure I could still see my peers, their lights also shifting left and right from my left side to my right side, making sure I'm not getting lost, because the last thing you want to do with this current and low vis is potentially have a lost diver situation. That would just be worse than the camera. So you always have to pay attention to everyone around you. Even though we can't really see each other well, you can see the lights piercing through the darkness. Remember, this is a night dive. The mood switched from a fun test to a focused search, and I felt a strong sense of teamwork. We were all there to just have fun, and now we're trying to look for my lost camera, and it feels really humbling to have a team of divers to help with this recovery. And even though you couldn't see very far, the whole site felt alive. But we continued to search. We searched and we searched. It stretched on for quite some time. And even though I had already kind of felt this thing was lost, I still had a sense of hope that maybe it'll show up. At this point, we already passed the obvious area, at least in my mind, that I probably dropped. And so that was even more crushing. And amidst all this, I found one of my other friends that was there also doing a mapping, which is kind of interesting idea to do during a night dive, but he was trying to build a map, and he spotted me. During this time, he came over to say hello, which was just very coincidental that you see someone underwater and say hello with low vis. But that's the kind of thing that's happening here. He wrote on his little wet note that said basically, "Hi Divewise," and then showed me his map sketch. And I knew instantly what he was doing. But of course, it's kind of hard to say hello when my time underwater was slowly coming to an end because of gas consumption and the continued search for the camera. But it was a nice human moment during this dive to kind of break that tension. But ultimately, I was still set to find my camera. The search carries on. But within that same time frame, not too much later, my friend finds the camera. A miraculous recovery. And what's even more amazing is the footage that the camera caught of them basically coming through, sweeping through as a team, and ultimately finding it. Fortunately, I wasn't too far away during this recovery, and so he handed it to me. I was so happy. I could not tell you the positive emotions I was feeling during this time. It's almost undescribable. So I went ahead and did a reasonable thing. I blew him some kisses under the water. And even more amazing, I got it all on film because the 360 camera is still filming. So one testament about having a 360 camera, and one of the reasons I wanted to use it on my dives more, is the fact that it's always filming. And it captures these moments when I'm not necessarily, how am I going to even film that kind of thing? I need both my hands and even, I don't know. It's not like I have a whole film crew following me around, so I have to figure out ways to capture these real moments on the dive. But that was truly the turning point on the dive. After that, everything felt lighter. On the way back, we even found a nice red octopus. So I did the very reasonable thing a diver should do. I pulled out the camera, got my light on, and I filmed them for some time with others around me. The nice thing about night dives is that's generally when octopus come out to hunt. I'm not sure if the octopus enjoyed it, but I kept my light on low just to be sure I didn't blind it. And now the dive starts feeling entirely different. Ultimately, we all got back to shore together, and I gave high praises all around. The expensive camera was recovered, and I was truly able to see what that Insta360 can do. That's pretty cool. What could have been a frustrating gear mistake and a total loss of money became a story for the night, a story to remember, a story shared amongst friends. The bad start on the first dive gave the next dive real stakes, a real mission, and being a part of a great team of friends changed the whole outcome. I could not find it by myself. I really doubt it. Not even with one other person. Sometimes it takes a team, and it's that group that changed the outcome. And I'm definitely very fortunate we were able to find it at the bottom, so I now know it doesn't float to the surface. But finding it changed my whole memory of this dive. Instead of ruining the night, the mistake made it unforgettable, and I'm glad to share it with you. And thanks to the Insta360, I have footage to show for it. And these are the stories that make diving unforgettable. So if you're looking for more diving stories, I have lots more to share. Here's a recent one up here, and here's one that YouTube thinks you might like to watch next. The more you know, the more you'll love and protect the ocean. Until next time.